Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well. This is the first edition of the CFF Live, the Cloud Family Foundation live stream. The Cloud Family Foundation was founded in 2018. It conducts of my brother, Jeffrey Cloud, my cousin, Jackie Cloud, and me as the executive director and founder. Our focus is to provide resources to students and teachers to increase their chance of success. And this comes by way of scholarships and even grants for grade schools. We awarded our inaugural set of Robert Jones scholarships on July 29th to 3 deserving students, one from Tuskegee, Southern University A&M, and one from the University of Central Florida. It is because of the individual donations and the Ruby Goodrich 5K that we were able to do that. In 2022, we're looking to even add laptops to distribution for elementary schools and high schools as well. So make sure you give us take a look at our website and make sure you're able to donate as well. I want to make sure that everybody sees our website. Make sure you go and sign up on our internal website. The one thing you want to do is when you go to the website, and I'm going to bring it up here for everybody to see really quickly, make sure you scroll to the bottom of the page and go and see here. You take a look at that. If you scroll to the bottom of the website, you'll see at the bottom, there is an opportunity to subscribe. So I ask you to go in, make sure you do your subscription. You'll make sure you get to see all our live events, our live streams, as well as get information on our newsletters and the like. So make sure you sign up. It's for a good cause. A lot of the things that we do really help benefit our youth in the schools and at the collegiate level. So go ahead and do your sign up. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring in Mr. Richard Wright. He is a director of engineering and technology at Lockheed Martin. And we're going to do some really good question and answer interview session. And hopefully you get some really good opportunities to ask Mr. Wright some questions. So without further ado, we're going to jump into that. Hi, Rich. How are you doing? I see you finally got comfortable there. It's good seeing you again. We actually haven't seen each other in a while, have we?
No, in a bit, but it's funny because the topic is mentoring and networking, but we've kept in touch even though we haven't seen each other, right? So that's a good thing.
That's how we kind of started out, right? I can't remember what event it was, and I remember I was talking with Nick Spain, and Nick was like, "You need to go talk to Rich Wright," and I was like, "Okay, who is he?" Right? And so we had that conversation, and I remember it was an event at the CLE, and after that point in time, you and I guess became pretty daggone good friends there as well. So thank you for all the mentoring that you give me, regardless of the circumstances. So I definitely appreciate that. So for individuals on the phone, there's an opportunity to ask questions. If you look, there's a comment section on there. You can ask questions. It'll come directly to me, and then I will ask those directly to Rich. This is going to be a very open session about mentoring, a little bit about his background with the mentors as well. So feel free to ask questions as we go along. But the first thing I really want to talk to you about, Rich, and we talk about the difference between mentoring and sponsorship, and I kind of want to jump off there, right? What's the difference, right? Is there a difference between mentoring and sponsorship?
Absolutely, and a lot of times people confuse the two. They'll think about, oh, can you be my mentor, and that automatically clicks in that they're an advocate. So what a mentor will do for you is and a true mentor, I don't mean just the informal check the box once a month, see if they're alive or breathing. It's really about knowing the person. So from a mentor perspective, people I mentor, it's a personal relationship. It's what do you want to do, not just in your career, but also in your personal life. And you try to combine the two and find the best of both worlds, the yin and yang of a person, so that they can accelerate to be what their potential allows them to be. Where if you're an advocate or a sponsor, that's the person you call when you go, I saw this job, or I saw this opportunity, or I saw this other thing that really interests me, but I don't know anyone in that organization, or I don't know how to first approach it. I think you have some connections there that might be able to help. And that's the kind of dialogue you have with an advocate. They know what you can do, they know your ability, they know your potential, and then they just help accelerate you into a role by making one or two phone calls and saying, hey, this person, Justin, let me tell you about them a little bit. They have a lot of potential. They're going to be the next CEO, whatever it might be.
I don't
That's
know if
really
that's going to happen.
you know, yeah, okay. So, remember that when I asked you for a job. So, at the end of the day, that's the real delta between the two. It's and knowing when to use them, because when I go to mentor someone, I'm automatically an advocate, right?
Right.
Or a sponsor. But that doesn't mean I can get you into doors that a VP or someone who is a second cousin of somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, right? It's like LinkedIn. There's a lot of people on LinkedIn that can help you get to an area or a position, but they're not necessarily mentors, right? So if you put that in the same context, knowing a mentor knows you, knows your weaknesses, knows your strengths, knows how to help you facilitate out of blind spots, how to enhance the things that make you special, knows how to approach you to say, hey, you need to fix this if you want to move down this line, where an advocate or sponsor may not even know about those things and may not even care to know about those things, but rather, how do I help you move down or move up the chain, if you will, if that helps.
And that's an excellent point, right? We talk about being in the room, right? Being able to help influence, not just saying, here, you should be doing this, that, or the third, but also speaking on behalf of that individual when they can't speak on themselves. That true advocacy, that real sponsorship, almost taking some level of responsibility for that individual too, by sticking your neck out in the same vein, right? So I think, to your point, there's a difference between the mentorship, where you may have that routine activities where you're talking and meeting together, versus somebody who's in the room, who's saying, you got to go talk to this person. So, and I'm glad we kind of started there, because everybody looks at mentoring and they think that's the end all be all. And I'm glad we were able to kind of identify the differences between the two. From a true mentorship, right? The one thing people kind of worry about doing, how to find a mentor, right? I've been fortunate enough to have mentors approach me. And I will put a plug here, and it didn't dawn on me until this moment. One of my mentors passed away not too long ago, Andre Hampton. He was at Lockheed Martin. And I remember I was walking down the hallway, and it was one day he just approached me and said, do you have a mentor? I was like, no. He's like, you do now. And I was like, okay, so all right. No, I see how this is going to work. But, God rest his soul, he passed, I think it was a couple of months ago. So, but he approached me, and that was really important for me. But we talk about, how do you find a mentor? How do you know to identify somebody as a potential mentor for you?
So a couple of things to your point. Sometimes you're not looking for a mentor and they show up, right? It's almost like an angel. And from that perspective, when looking for a mentor, if you're actively seeking one, if you're in an environment where you have a manager you trust and all the other things that go with that, start there. Talk with the person that's your immediate supervisor, your manager, and say, you kind of know the organization. Who are the right people that would fit me? That's important, that statement, not just, I want a mentor, right? Because anyone can mentor you, but if you don't have a relationship, it's not really a mentor. And by relationship, I mean being able to be open and feel confident that the things that you share are only between the two of you. But when looking, I know a couple of folks that I had started to informally mentor, and I said, hey, let me introduce you to somebody. That's the other thing. When I talked about your supervisor, it doesn't have to be your supervisor. It could be anybody. Let me introduce you to somebody who I think matches your personality and also has the same road that you're going to have to travel, right? And the other is, don't be bashful. We are introverts and extroverts, right? We know that. If you're an introvert, don't hesitate to send an email to someone that you look at and go, how do I get to actually talk to this person? And start the dialogue on email, right? And that will lead to eventually a phone call or a Skype call or a Zoom call or whatever we're using nowadays, right? And from that moment of it starting the fire, and then the fire starts to get bigger, and then you get to a point where you can actually have the conversation one-on-one. That may take longer, but I got to recognize that different personalities work differently, right? So from an introvert perspective, think of it as an email. And look at somebody who you look at in the chat. Know your company. If you're talking about companies, take the moment and look at the annual report. And it talks about leadership, right? Take a moment and go to LinkedIn and see what they've done in their career. Take a moment and look at the LinkedIn one-offs, like they know somebody one step off to the right or left, and see what they've done, so you get a sense of who they're close to, right?
Right.
And that's not spying. Don't take it as spying or stalking. We're not spying or stalking, okay? But it's knowing who you're going to engage with. And then the other is when you have that moment, if you're an extrovert, know your elevator pitch, right? So if you walk into an elevator, and I walked into an elevator, and Marilyn Houston, who's the former CEO.
Rich, are you there? I don't know if it's on your end or my end, Rich. So hopefully we can get you back here. I'm going to try you directly. Hopefully we can get this resolved pretty quickly for you. Sorry. In the meantime, while we're trying to get Rich back, I see there's a couple of questions, right? And I'll address them really quickly while we're talking. When we talk about mentorship, ultimately identifying individuals that it doesn't always have to be the person that looks like you, that you feel like they come from the exact same background as you. There's a part of mentorship and sponsorship that you need to find people that don't look like you and that don't sound like you and don't have the same experiences as you do. And that's going to be critically important, right? Because we talk about how do people have true advocacy. Not everybody who is an advocate is the person that has the exact same experiences as you do, but are individuals that can give you a different perspective, right? It's important because not only having that different perspective, but it gives you a way to interact with people that you may be uncomfortable. Case in point, right? I was born into a predominantly Black city. I went to a predominantly Black high school, and I went to a predominantly an HBCU, historically Black college. And so making sure that I understood other individuals was important. People who didn't share the exact same background that I do. So I definitely implore you that if you're looking for a mentor, don't just look at people that look like you, that have the same personality and the same background. Hopefully we can get Rich back on here in a second. But the other point I'll make to you is that you don't necessarily need to have one mentor. I've had multiple mentors. I had at different levels, not just one person who may be a level above me. But also people who may be several levels above me. And it looks like Rich is trying to get back into us now. So hopefully we'll get him here in a second. But I sought them out. I wanted to have that discussion. I wanted to know how they got to the place they were. And so when I sought out my mentors, and again, even for when I had Andre Hampton, he brought a different perspective to me. Not all my mentors are Black male. Not all my mentors are persons of color, but there are people that give me different perspective. And the one thing I'll always say is don't be afraid to have a candid conversation with your mentor. Ultimately, if you are going to grow, if you are going to be successful, if you are going to be able to take it to that next level, you need to be able to be candid with them, so that way they can give you open and honest feedback. I personally, I've never been one that's shied away from feedback. I've never been one that was afraid to get hard feedback, but I would have preferred to get it, right? I want to hear that so that way I can course correct and make sure that I am doing the right things for not only my career, but for the people that I am pulling along, right? We talk about having a mentor, but also having mentees at the same time. It's not just all about what you learn, but also what you can bring to others, what information you can help them learn. And I see a question in the comments. I see Neville, how do you structure your meetings with your mentor? Now, it's funny because I could easily see that you could be my mentor as well, Neville, but it depends on the relationship itself, right? Sometimes you may have a recurring meeting, but it may not be that. It may be something that happens every sporadically. And give me 1 second. I'm trying to get Rich back in. Hopefully we can get him to rejoin us. So hopefully, Rich, there he is. He looks like he's rejoining us now. Fortunately, I was able to pontificate for a little bit, so I will get him back on the screen. Give us 1 second. Are you there, Rich?
I think so.
Yep. No, we're good. I was able to hold down the fort for a little bit while you were dealing with the technology there.
I know you were talking about Miami, so I'm jealous, but that's okay.
You're going to stop doing that, right? You're going to stop bringing up Miami every opportunity you get.
Hey, well, my apologies for the drop, but I can pick up where we left off, and that I'll make it brief. Have your elevator pitch ready, and that doesn't matter if it's a mentor or an advocate, because when you walk in the elevator, and I walked in with the CEO of Lockheed once, you have to have something to talk about to break that ice, so they know that you're at least cognizant of what's going on with the company, or cognizant of going on with the area, the industry. So I recommend everyone, and this is a sidebar, take a look at the Wall Street Journal. I'm not asking you to read the whole thing, just the front page, left-hand column. You can get that downloaded every morning. It may be 5 little paragraphs of 3 sentences each. That way you have something to talk about, like, hey, did you realize that today, XYZ, China just won 5 gold medals, or whatever it might be, to start the conversation, the dialogue, if you're an extrovert versus an introvert. And that.
Uh-oh, I think I might be losing Rich again. I got a feeling that he might be, we might be losing him again, but we will, he was talking about the elevator pitch. And Phyllis, I see you have a question there. The question is really good time. Having an elevator pitch, right? It's important to be able to talk, right? I think a lot of people, when we see somebody that may be high ranking, we tend to freeze, right? But if you do have points that you can articulate, that you can talk through, I think that's really important. Now, I will say, I'm not the biggest fan, and unfortunately, Rich is having some connection issues, so I can say this. I'm not the biggest fan of an elevator pitch. And let me tell you why I say elevator pitch. It's good to have commentary, good to have discussion topics ready to go, but I'm not here's my 2 minutes of who I am. I rather have a candid conversation, real meaningful dialogue, one that doesn't sound so contrived, right? So it's okay to have your points that you are ready at a moment's notice to discuss, but I wouldn't memorize per se 2 or 3 lines to, when you meet that CEO, when you meet Marilyn Houston, to just have those 2 or 3 lines ready to go. Because what happens after those 2 or 3 minutes? Maybe she wants to talk a little bit more. Can you talk more after that? And if you can't, maybe you've lost an opportunity because you were so prepared in your 2 minutes that you weren't ready to have discussion outside of that. And I don't want to take away from Neville's question. Neville, going back to your question, we talk about the structure of the meetings, right? Some can be a little bit more structured, some can be a little bit more vague in nature. And and I think he went outside. So hold on 1 second. I'm bringing him back in. So I'm going to assume you went outside.
Yeah, I gave up.
No, it's okay. Like I said, I've been trying to do you justice while you were outside or while you were trying to get reconnected. So I know we talked about the elevator pitch. I kind of talked a little bit more about that, not just having the two sentences where you're just ready to say those two sentences, but having points that you can discuss. So I wanted to make sure I talked about not just having two lines, because if you have those two lines, what do you say after that if they want to talk more, right? So I talked about having those points being ready to discuss. Neville, and I'll tell you, Neville, who I say probably could be my mentor as well, he asked, how do you structure the meetings with your mentor? And I kind of talked a little bit about that, but since you're back on, I thought I'd bring that question back to you.
Thank you. So I'm going to structure it maybe different than maybe what you had mentioned. I have a patented Rich Wright method of doing mentoring. Okay. At least there's a trademark on it someplace. But when you have that mentoring session, if your mentor doesn't start off with, hey, let's talk about your professional and personal expectations in life, right? Because you can't focus on your personal if your personal isn't connected to it. So for example, I had one mentee who was asking about, I want to be a CEO. Got it. I said, well, do you want to have kids too? Right? Well, yeah. I said, well, how many? Oh, 5. Really? And you want to be a CEO? You might want to kind of find when you want to be CEO and balance that against kids, right? So rather than let's talk about how you become a CEO and then you hit the roadblock of a family, right? And that's not a block. It's actually an accelerant when you use it right. But the structure of that discussion, your first discussion, should be very candid, should be very open, and it should be really focused on talk to me about what you want to do 5 years from now. Talk to me about what you do 5 years from now, professionally and personally, and then back up. And at the end of that, there should be homework. People don't realize mentoring is not just about that conversation. It's a continued conversation. So that homework will be, in my case, I'd say, I want you to go home, get your favorite beverage, and start writing out, on paper. I know paper is a commodity nowadays. It's hard to find, but on paper, because it provides you a thought process where you're not just typing away and can erase and type away. Think about what you want to do from 5 years back. So I want a family of 5 kids. Well, what do I want to do in 3 years personally? What do I want to do in 1 year? Then separately have another session in your own self space where you go, what do I want to do professionally? 5, 3, 1. And that's your next session. So always plan for the next session, but your first session has to be personal and professional. It can't be one or the other. Otherwise, you're doing a disservice to accelerating where you want to be.
Gotcha. And I appreciate that, right? You can't always just say it's all about the professional life, right? And I'm glad you bring that up because they have to be in line. Yeah, 5 kids and trying to be a CEO. Yeah, good luck with that one. There was a comment that is aligned to what I was kind of saying. Constructive criticism adds value to you always. And I'll give the plug to the person who said it. It happened to be the person who showed me how to use this application. My next door neighbor, she showed me this. So thank you, Jonathan, for showing me how to use this web app. I appreciate it. There's another.
She needs to show me too, obviously.
Right? Yeah, no, it's great because, like I said, we're streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook right now. So hey, John, he went, and it's funny because he went from a person who didn't pay attention to social media to a social media guru, right? So yeah, no, so I give him a big shout out for that. There's a question from Reggie Price. Do you think your mentor could intervene for a mentee because of a challenging situation that may have occurred in the workplace? That's an interesting question.
Absolutely. A true mentor can do that. I mean, and I don't mean to belittle anyone who says, yeah, I'm a mentor, but you don't shy away from adversity when it's in the interest of the person you're mentoring, right? There's 2 sides to every story. And that's why I said, the relationship matters, because if you don't feel you can be fully honest with your mentor, and you put them in jeopardy in that first instance where they walk into the room, full of fire saying, hey, it's impossible that Reggie did that, right? And then all of a sudden they go, well, here's a video, you want to see that for a second? So it's important that when you have that full, open, honest, trust relationship, that if something should happen like that, your mentor is going to jump in. I've done it twice in my relationships, where I've actually engaged with one of our ELDPs who had a ridiculously bad ELDP, Engineering Leadership Development Program. We would go in rotations in different programs, had a ridiculously bad rotation, and it was a manager kind of personality thing going on. And I actually called up the person. I said, "Hi, this is Rich Wright. I'm so-and-so's mentor. I'm here to just seek first to understand why am I getting a call from my mentee that is not having a fulfilling rotation, and how can I help make that better?" Right? And that dialogue actually led to a different paradigm. So from that perspective, it's not about a title, whether you're a director or a VP or something. It's starting the initiation of a relationship with the manager. So anyone I know who's a mentee of mine, I typically will call the manager anyway, just say, "Hey, I'm a mentor, and I'd like to understand how I can support that person progress," even before that situation comes up. But yes, Reggie, I would expect a mentor to jump in the middle of the fray and support the mentee in an open, honest dialogue that doesn't turn around and say, "Here's the pictures," So okay.
And again, I've been in situations myself on both sides, right, where my mentor has called in. I'll be honest with you, Nick Spain, right, of all people, right, calling in, doing the same thing for me as I was doing for other people. So I appreciate the question. I am a firm believer that I am people who saved me as well. So thank you for that as well. So the one thing we talk about just in the whole mentoring construct, right? And this is one more for the young mentees. Should you blindly accept information that a mentor provides you?
No, not at all. I mean, because we're all human, number one. So I don't have 100% accuracy in everything I do. So, it's based on my experiences. Remember that. So I'll always preface with, this is use or lose information. Here's what I would do in that situation based on these experiences that I had. That does not mean go off and jump off the cliff or, buy that house. And by the way, I'm stipulating things that a mentor should do. Or, hey, this is how you play the stock market. This is what it means. This is how you invest your time. Those are all informational, right? But not directional. There's a difference, because my experiences may not be your reality.
Right.
I may not know everything going on. So use it as a compass guidance. Stay between the bumper rails on the highway, because a real mentor is not going to lead you into a bad place. But at the same token, balance that calculus against what you want to get out of whatever that topic is, so that it's not only about, okay, Josh or whoever, or Jane or Mary or John says, "I need to go and take that job, therefore I'm going to go take that job." A real mentor is going to question you 28 times. So why is it taking that job? Why? In my experience, it sounds like a good job, but let's walk through why it's good for you, not what I see, right? I hope that helps. So.
Yeah, and I recall one relationship I had with one of my mentors, and I remember saying, "I want to get an MBA," right? And
Right.
I'm immediately going to go in her office and I think I should get an MBA. And I just knew she was going to validate my point on why I needed to get an MBA. And she was like, "No." I was like, "What do you mean no?" She's like, "Why are you going for an MBA?" And I hadn't thought of a good answer at that point in time, but I was like, well, it gives me experiences and I can learn things. She was like, "You're a manager, you're working proposals, you're learning a lot of that stuff already, Justin." And she caught me off guard. And I was like, can I come back to you on why I want an MBA? So I remember thinking that, knowing that I just knew in my head that I was going to go get an MBA and that was the right thing for me. And I know the discussion now that it's kind of taken a converse to what the question was, but I bring up the point that, not every answer that you're looking for is an affirmation as well, right? And she clearly articulated to me that that wasn't the right thing. But yeah, the one thing I have with especially some of my junior engineers, I don't want them to immediately accept information because somebody has experience, right?
Exactly.
Trust but verify,
Right.
understand the details, right? So that's why I wanted to bring up that question specifically, because I don't want people to just blindly accept answers just because somebody's been there 10 years or 15 years or what have you. Do you still have a mentor? Do you have people that's still influencing you these days?
Absolutely. But it's interesting because your mentor shouldn't only be at work. So I'm going to kind of digress a little bit because everyone
Mhm.
says, oh, they must be in the management chain. No. I have mentors that are so far displaced from here. You know, one one is a one is actually a captain in NYPD, right? Think about what
Okay.
New York Police Department. I'm going, what it has to do with technology? But as I said, it has to do with life experiences, right?
Mhm.
And you shouldn't have just one mentor, my opinion, because that gives you only one facet of the diamond. I usually would say to people, have one or two, maybe two or three max, but have a core, but have somebody outside of the box to bounce it off of. And that's what I use. His name is Dennis, my mentor out of the NYPD. About. I say, what do you think of this? But my core mentor, I'd say, right now, this is, I don't want to put anybody in a spot. So I'm afraid to use names on this live stream.
Don't worry about it. Don't do it then.
Yeah.
You can tell me
So
later.
I'll say person X, right? Um, person X is actually somebody who's no longer with the company, had left the company, but is very familiar with Lockheed Martin, and is a former exec that I'll go to all the time, right? Because they've lived the experience of Lockheed Martin. But you must have others. And by the way, I always tell my mentees have a mentor in the human resources group. Doesn't have to be a formal, but an informal, right? Have a mentor that's also in program management if that's what you do. Have a mentor that is associated with none of the above in the company because that gives you a triangulation on questions. So if one can't answer it, one of the other two can. And in
Mhm.
addition, as advocates, as a mentor, you're automatically an advocate. Your HR rep's going to help you. They're going to be able to say that's a bad job, a good job, right? And I won't say names because you used one already, but they'll help you figure out, the total answer to a question that you're going to need more than one answer to. Okay.
No, I got you. Do you have any suggestions on books to be able, and I know I'm kind of veering off a little bit, but do you have any suggestions on books other than the Bible itself that you would recommend? I know you, brother. I know that's where your head went immediately, but
I know.
I'm gonna think some more recently printed books that you may recommend
Let's
for
see.
some of the listeners out there.
More recently printed books.
I know you. Like I said, when we were at Baya. You're already quoting Ecclesiastics to me. No,
Yeah.
I'm talking about something that might be something new
But
print today.
eh, eh, and I'm not going to preach, because I'm not that good. But one of the things is people say for books. Um, One of the things that I get, and I know it sounds, kind of bourgeois, whatever you want to call it, is I actually look at Harvard Business Review. They
Mhm.
don't always have applicable stories, but you can go into the library, you can go into, you know, shoot Amazon and other places and get the audio files associated with that. But they always challenge you to think differently from a mentoring perspective. They actually had something on mentoring.
Mhm.
They actually include other business attributes that are important. How to deal with change, how to deal with innovation, how to do all these other things. So if you want to consider that a book, I mean, it's not a stationary publication, but that's a good start because it gives you real experiences, what's going on. It's not about theory sometimes. So um, the other book, that I would say, it's not mentoring. I'm going to back up. I'm not going to go down mentoring books because
Okay.
there's so many different people. I've read some of them and I kind of go, okay, that's an interesting opinion, but I don't want to have anyone read it and go, yeah, that's it, then do something crazy. I would suggest mentoring yourself in areas. So, for example, when you find that job and your mentor is advocating you, and there's someone in the boardroom that goes, yeah, you know, Justin needs to be in that position and so forth. Be prepared for those things because that's what a mentor or an advocate is supposed to do. Prepare you for the opportunity, right? And so no matter what you do, if you're in a business, the first 90 days is a book that I recommend to everyone, because it prepares you not just how to manage a project, it prepares you mentally to get ready for the challenge. That's what a job is, a new job is, a new
Right.
challenge, right? And it goes down, here's what you do in the first month. And it's so basic, but it's so true. You got to understand your job. You got to walk around and understand who you're going to be dealing with. Who's your team? Who's your non-team? Who's your advocates? Who's your adversaries? What are the end in mind things that you want to get done? What are the things that blew up? So 90 days, that the first 90 days is what the book is called. I can't remember off the top of my head the author, and I apologize for that, but there's only one of those books, first 90 days. Okay. And I think Justin's looking it up as we speak, right?
Hey,
Right,
that's why I say you know me way too well.
right. The other, which is really interesting, is um, by Admiral McCraven, right? He's actually was the head of special forces and involved in, when we were going after Osama bin Laden. And he has a book that talks about, make your bed every day kind of thing. And it's just basic things that you need to do if you want to lead, if you want to be led, um, and just self maintenance, right? That is not about making your bed per se, but the things that you need to get accustomed to every day doing. That is only a positive outcome for your career. If you're going to meet meetings, be on time. If you're going to meet people, know what they are, what they're going to be interested in. If you're going to be an end in mind and have a mission, a plan, have a mission and a plan.
Right.
So that book by itself is a very short read, but it's pretty amazing. And then the other one, I'll leave this one alone. I can't say the whole title on the air, but it's it's screw it, just do it. Okay. And it's
You
by
figure it out, right?
right. And it's by Richard Branson. And you all know that
Okay.
man,
Yeah.
right?
Gotcha.
And so when you read through it, it actually walks through his life experiences. And, it talks about if you made a right or a left turn without thinking about it, he could have ended up in a completely different place, right?
Right.
Than running Virgin Air and having all the things with the spacecraft and everything else going on. And it makes you be mindful of decisions you make at an early age, from when you're in college all the way to however long you want to be in your career. So Screw It, Just Do It by Richard Branson is another short read. It's a really good read too. It takes your mind out of the box of what your limitations are as to what you can be, right?
And the name of the individual who, and it's funny because Yachty, who is I think he's in Japan, was actually saying it, Michael Watkins.
There you go.
First
That's
90
nice.
days.
Thank you. You got it.
So
Thanks.
it's funny. I had it brought up. I see the message. I'm like, thank you, Yachty. I had it up at the same time, but yeah, he beat me to it before I could say it. So I got to give him credit for being able to say that. So, we talked about, and like I said, I think this was really good information. I think, a lot of people were looking for not just, starting that mentoring relationship, making sure that they are continuously making sure it is a strong mentoring relationship. I think the one thing that I've always heard is a mentoring relationship doesn't have to be for a year. It doesn't have to be 2 years. It may be a month, 2 months. If it really concludes and you get what is necessary from that mentoring relationship, maybe it doesn't have to be, but so long.
So my longest mentoring relationship is 25 years.
Okay.
And I don't say that for impact. I say that to say that mentoring is not something that you do 1 week and then you decide, hey, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And that gentleman, I'm excessively proud of him. I hired him out of college, and he became the cyber policy guy for Obama, right?
Wow.
And you kind of go, how did that happen? And we were religious about making sure we met. We talked about everything from his family to his end in minds, and everything from stocks to you name it, politics, everything. And so that relationship is an example of what, to me, the gold standard is of mentoring. Because when he was looking to accept a job after he was a CISO for Capital One, right? He said, hey, let me sit down with you. And I'm like, dude, you're in your 40s. What? Okay. He's like, no, this is a mentoring relationship. So I want to talk to you about the 5 opportunities I'm presented with. and we sat down in Tyson's Corner in a restaurant for 2 hours, pounding out, which one of these things is the best fit for him personally and professionally. That's what a mentoring relationship should be. It doesn't have a timeline to it, right?
Right.
To your point. The other is know when mentoring isn't working. So,
Right.
If you're with somebody and you're going, man, this is not working for me. Take that gut feeling, that spidey sense, that tingling sensation, and go, you know what? It's been great. I really appreciate what you've done, and I think I'm going to look elsewhere because we're not on the same page, and it's not helping me, right?
Right.
And I'll one of the gentlemen who I respect dearly, and I wish I had actually listened to him, was a former executive VP for Lockheed, Art Johnson, right? And so we were talking, and he gave me some advice, and I'm a cement head, and I'm going, I don't know if that's for me, and well, it's been good. And then I remember when he retired, I was at his going away thing, and he grabbed me by the arm and he said, "If you only listened," so I say that, to say that, if it's not working, sometimes it's working and you just don't know it. So you have to be more patient than I was. And I still have the handprint on my arm from him grabbing me.
Well, I mean, I think in that situation, yes, but I think there's, and there was a comment in the chat, there's times where it just doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
You may have that professional admiration for the individual, but when y'all sit down, you may have such a difference in perspectives that it may not be the right circumstance, right? And the example that the individual put on here was even a political difference, right? So, not every mentorship, even though that person may have the skills that you're looking for, might not be the right mentoring relationship. So I'm glad you bring that up, but I'm sorry you still got the handprints on the arm from Art at that point in time.
But yeah, so, and also, by the way, doesn't mean that you can't pick up that relationship later on, right?
Right.
Because whether it's political or whatever you don't feel right about, don't lose touch with that person. Don't just say I'm done. Keep in touch, because later on they might be, we're actually in the same place. Let's try it again, right?
Yeah, and it's, the great thing about mentoring relationship, and there's somebody who works with me at L3 Harris, right? And I set up a meeting with him, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get some really good mentoring from him. He's a general manager, so we're sitting down, and, and he's like, okay, so you're going to mentor me. I'm like, wait a sec, no. This was supposed to be you being my mentor. He was like, no. He's like, you've got access to some high-powered people in this company. He's like, I need that mentoring relationship. So it's funny that you talked about that, and even for me, when I was looking to him to give me a good word, he was looking for some of the experience I had. So we were essentially mentoring each other. That was probably the most interesting mentoring relationship I had, where it was kind of a dual mentorship relationship.
Well, let me tell you, I mean, that's also when you hit perfection there in a mentor, because I learned from every experience I have with my mentees. Right. Every single one. It shouldn't be, hey, I'm your father telling you, son, what to go do. No, it's really, I'm learning. I mean, because from that learning, I then can translate my experiences to something that makes sense to what you want to go do. Right. So, right. Yeah, perfect point.
Well, Rich, we don't have any more commentary. I know I was planning to go for maybe about half an hour, but the discussion has been so good. I want to give you a couple minutes if there's anything else that you want to impart to the audience. We did have a number of people that came in and out. I think we had roughly about at least 12, 13 people live. Were there any other points that you thought of that you wanted to kind of bring to the audience at this point in time?
Absolutely. So everyone look me up on LinkedIn, because networking matters, and feel free to send out a thing and I will respond for sure. So I'll start with that. Networking matters. The goal of LinkedIn is not that you have 1,000 people that you're connected to, right? That are first, second, and third. The goal of networking is to be able to pick up the phone, send an email, however the method you communicate with, and have that person that you're networked to actually recognize you. And you can then take that use it to your advantage or to their advantage, because they can pick up the phone and call you too. And I literally had that discussion. I was talking to the CEO of Cerberus 2 weeks ago, and it was a great discussion. It wasn't about anything other than networking, and it was, okay, so how many people do you have, Rich, on your LinkedIn list? I said, I think I got about 1,000 or so. And I said, but I'm going to stop you there, because the key is being able to pick up the phone and contacting them or sending them a message, and they actually respond.
Right.
And if that's not the relationship you have, whether it's on LinkedIn or in general with your network, then you probably don't want to do that. Just keep in touch with people that either you like or that matter, or both, right? Because you never know when that relationship's going to come into fruition. The second thing I want to talk about is mentoring itself is something that you need to take seriously. A lot of people set up the monthly meetings and you check the box, and half an hour later you're done. And you should always ask yourself, what do I want going into that meeting? And did I get it going out of that meeting, right? Otherwise, it's just another phone call. You can say, how's the family doing, and without having to set up that meeting, right? So make it more than just a phone call or an email exchange or a Zoom, but something that at the end of it, you've either learned something, you've gotten something accomplished, or you've moved one step closer to where you want to be in that organization or outside of that organization. Right. And then finally, never forget your personal side, right? People forget that, okay, I have a wife or a girlfriend or a husband or a partner or whatever it might be. And yeah, they'll catch up. I'm going to keep moving fast and getting where I got to go. Well, let me tell you, that journey is not by yourself. Right. So don't forget those that are taking care of all the other things that you need to have taken care of in your life that actually accelerates you to the next level. So don't forget to say thank you to them. Don't forget to include them in your decisions, because they're part of your mentoring and networking, right? And people forget about that. The personal side of life is actually the other half that makes you whole when you want to go and become that CEO, that president, or whatever it might be. So that's the three things I want to leave the audience with, and I thank you for your time. I'm honored to be a participant in this. I wish only the best success for your foundation. I want to participate more if I can. And everyone on the line, remember, get down there and click those things that Justin talked to you to click about, because that's important too, that we keep this going. And that's all I got.
I appreciate that, Rich. And again, it has been a pleasure. I thank you for all you've done for my career, not just this hour that we've been talking here today. So I thank you for all those things and seeing things in me that I probably didn't see in myself. But yes, everybody, thank you for your time. Remember to go to www.cff-inc.org. Go scroll to the bottom and then sign up. So thank you again for your time. Thank you, Rich, for joining us. And hopefully everybody has a great day. God bless.
Hey, take care. Thank you.